Welcome to the Sphere. This episode is sponsored by Houston Housewives of Finance. For more information on increasing your cash flow, becoming your own money manager, and to schedule your complimentary personal finance strategy, contact the Houston Housewives of Finance today at 1-844-700-4463. Elite Dental Wellness. At Elite Dental Wellness, Dr. Ashandra Batiste understands that one of the biggest obstacles is dental fear. The vision at Elite Dental Wellness is to ensure every patient is treated with respect, ultimate care, patience, and love. Call us today to make an appointment at area code 713-789-8680. Looking to advertise? Join the Sphere's vast demographic reach of thousands of people all over the world. Send an email today to advertise@thesphere.tv or call us at area code 832-772-7789.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for another amazing edition of Society Now, a show that endeavors to bring you riveting content that will inspire, direct your life. I mean, not really direct it, but kind of give you some insight of what's going on and hopefully cultivate the right type of communication between you and the homies or the people around your block. My name is Kira Laws. You can follow me on Instagram at The Modern Day Cindy. That's Cindy with the I, not a Y. And I have my handsome co-host with me today.
Hey y'all, what's going on? All the homies. I like that. It's your man Kayla Laws, aka Senor Wapo. Do me a quick favor. Go to Instagram, go to Twitter, go to Facebook, and type in. You ready? SENORGUAPO713. That's my social media handle on all my social media platforms. Senor Wapo. The GU is a W, baby. It is Spanish, and I speak it. Yep. So thank you all so much for hanging out with us right here on Society Now. We are excited to be with you. We are excited to hang out with you. We are excited to just talk all things news and what's going on in this world, this crazy, crazy world. I tell you, I don't know if you've been following what's going on in the world. You know, sometimes it's kind of difficult to not necessarily difficult, but it can be a painstaking process trying to figure out which headlines to discuss, right, Kira?
I mean, it's so much going on, and I think that, not to say that everything you see is, first of all, you have to figure out the platforms that you're following, and then, of course, you have to vet out if they're actually speaking about things that are of interest to you, right. And not just interesting to you, but of interest to you. Right. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like well-being type of things, holistic things. So we try to, we endeavor to bring that information to you, the type of content that will help you kind of, like I said, direct your life. Yeah. So absolutely. So let's jump right in, because it's almost October, which means we're closer and closer to these midterm elections. Yeah. And now, unlike ever before, we've had more conversation about midterm elections than we've had, I think, in my whole lifetime. Yeah. And I think it has a lot to do with the state of the universe, right? Not just the state of the universe, but the state of the world today, actually. We have so many people really concerned about what's going on in the United States, our leadership as a country, our leadership at the state level, local government. And, the message is getting out is very clear that, hey, if you want to affect change, don't just wait every 4 years to do this change, but actually get involved in the midterm elections, get involved at the local level, make sure that your voice is being heard, make sure the persons that are at the state level or representing you, or those that go to DC for you, are actually speaking about the things that are important to not just those who have big wallets, but even those whose change may jingle more than others. So with that in mind, let's think about like how fashion is really getting involved. Now, we've always seen fashion kind of push messages of, social justice, but now we're seeing it differently because Levi's has launched a campaign to increase voter turnout on election day. Now, I think if you remember, we just recently talked about, or you might even mention this as well, about how Levi's is really trying to make sure people know that although we have, we're you've seen us with this whole horse and buggy type
rooted
thing.
in the old west.
Old west, we're not.
That's when the brand started.
Rooted in the
right.
whole old west. We're not necessarily for guns like that. We actually are for some reform. We really want some gun control reform. And it's interesting that they're really being very loud about. As I said, just recently, not even a month ago, the gun reform issue came through Levi's,
Right.
and now they're launching this campaign to increase voter turnout. So, what do you know about this?
Well, the campaign kicks off with a national television a campaign showcasing people from around the world united by one common theme, and that's the user voice, right? It's sending the message to its fans to get informed, get involved, and get registered and get out to vote this fall. It's so dope that even some of the stores are actually going to have voter registration drives, so to speak. They're going to have the deputies or the folks that are bonded and licensed to register folks to vote in these different processes for every state. But they're going to have those folks available in order to get people out, get people registered to vote. Of course, they can't. They're a publicly traded company, so they can't. They can't endorse a candidate necessarily, or even partisanship. They can't show their partisanship, but they can levy their influence in terms of helping people get engaged and to vote. And I think what's even more powerful, or equally as powerful, right, is including the in-store voter registration station, is they're going to sell shirts, right, that say "Vote" emblazoned across the front to support voter awareness and turnout. And Levi's is actually donating to Rock the Vote to support their efforts to ensure that everyone can exercise their right to vote on election day. The tee is $25, and this is kind of an industry-wide thing, Kira. In fact, they're joining forces with companies across the U.S. in a nonpartisan CEO challenge called the Time to Vote campaign, which is pledging to give employees paid time off to vote on election day, which is really, really big.
I love this commercial that they've done.
Yeah.
I think they're showing, and I think that let's shout out to everybody, like especially people in fashion, because we are, one thing about this generation as we're very active, and we're in the middle of the generations, right? But holistically, they're very much involved in being on the right side of justice.
Right.
And if you look at this commercial, they're really showcasing all types of people, all walks of life, not just ethnic differences, but those with disabilities and things like that, to show that, hey, we all need to be involved in this conversation. Do not take this freedom to vote lightly. Please get out there and vote so your voice can be heard, and that we can make sure that what you need is being pushed through these ballots. So I think it's amazing. And also, I just thought about this. Shout out to Diddy, because you remember back in the day, he was the vote or die guy.
Vote or die.
And so I think
he's not new to this. He's true to this.
He's true to this. So I'm thinking about this, like even his T-shirt campaign back in the day, and what he was trying to team up with the MTV type thing that they were doing at the time. So I think it's just amazing that we're seeing this resurgence of people understanding the significance of the voting.
Right.
I think it's amazing. Now not on the other side of this, but in the right lane of this, we see we heard that Michael Bloomberg, big time, we know who Michael Bloomberg is, and if you don't know, do your research. But he is donating up to $100 million to House Democrats for midterms. That is an indication of the dire need of partisanship required to get things done. I think that there hasn't been equal or full representation on both sides. And so to actually be able to donate that much money to say, hey, we need equal representation on both sides so this thing stops turning so lopsided, I think it was amazing. And honestly, I mean, it's amazing to even be able to give that much toward a cause that you're passionate about. What do you think about that?
I think it's responsible. I think it's a phenomenal thing, and it's something that we've seen time and time again. Right, Fox has been notorious for donating to different candidates to the right into the super PACs. Right, Disney is another one that has done so. Not the NFL. Nike has done so for a long a number. They donated heavily to Republican campaigns, and it's time that it's time that other organizations, other folks, other well-to-do people are doing the same thing for the D's, for the blues, trying to get this blue wave going, which is really something that it looks like it might happen here in this country. And so, I think it's really, really good. Traditionally speaking, folks are used to seeing major corporations donate to the Republican Party, not necessarily to the Democratic Party. So I think that's good in and of itself. I really do believe that people are just really, really excited about this election and trying to see change. With the current administration, federally, what's been going on with the blue wave in terms of locally across the country. For example, we have 19 judges, black women that are up for judge in Harris County, which is where Houston is located. You look at what happened in Alabama, you look at what happened in Florida, you look at what has happened in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? There's so much been the blue wave has been really, really big, and I think it has emboldened and galvanized a lot of well-to-do folks who actually lean on the Democratic or on the Democratic side.
Yeah, and I think and also, I mean, we really don't have anything specific about this, but this is just my opinion. Even when you look at what's going on in the Senate hearings or the Supreme Court nominee Kavanaugh, when we look at that and we see how many people are adamant about pushing that nomination through before this midterm election, it lets you know that we are really in times where we have to be on the up and up with things. We have to be committed to justice and fairness. And a lot of things that's being said during, these hearings, this confirmation hearings, lets you know that, this is important, and we need to have more people that look like, I guess, the country. Right, representing the country and not just a specific base.
Mm-hmm. And we also need to make sure, as best as possible, that we're all in the financial position to donate to our sphere of influence, whether it's a nonprofit organization, whether it's a political party or political campaign, whether it's your child's school or whatever cause you may be attached to. We got to make sure your coin is right. And as such, this portion of the show is sponsored by Houston Housewives of Finance. Now, did you know that only 4 states in the U.S. offer financial education? 33% or more than 77 million Americans don't pay their bills on time. 39% of Americans carry credit card debt from month to month, and 39% of adults say they do not have enough savings. Don't become one of these statistics. Let Houston Housewives of Finance advise you on increasing your cash flow and becoming your own money manager by scheduling your complimentary personal financial strategy. Contact Houston Housewives of Finance today at 1-844-700-4463 or email us at info@HoustonHousewivesOfFinance.com. Now, ask how you can participate in a complimentary personal financial strategy literacy workshop near you. Houston Housewives of Finance are the new faces of the new age of financial services. And so, we got to make sure that we just have our houses in order. We have our as my mother used to say, pocketbook in order, so that we can affect change. Because there's this really good book that I love to read, and I highly recommend everyone get a copy. It's called the Bible. And that book actually says, money answereth all things, right? And it does. You want to make sure that you're wielding your influence financially and monetarily in the ways that are going to best support you and what you're passionate about. Kim.
Absolutely. And I think you said it best. Like, we have to make sure we're being better stewards of it. And some of it is just like you said, it's miseducation, and a lot of it is not enough. We feel like it's just not enough to go around. But I think that the Houston Housewives of Finance can definitely help with that.
Indeed, they can.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about something that's happening around the nation.
Man, look, this one is funny.
It's happening around the nation, but not really. Okay, so we know that a few states have already legalized marijuana, right?
Puff, puff, pass.
A few states have already done this. Not necessarily here in our state. Then we're in Texas, just to be clear. But states like Colorado and California, and they have legalized marijuana. Well, at LAX will allow a California resident or someone who's boarding the plane in California to have pot in the airport. And
you said pot.
They did. Well, it said pot in the article, so I said pot too.
You said pot.
Reefer,
that's funny.
Marijuana,
you say that's even
Mary
worse.
Jane. whatever your name for your stash
Right.
is, the green or whatever. Okay, sticky icky, ooh wee, all of it.
Come on, Snoop.
Okay, all of that. But TSA said it's still a crime. You have to remember that although it's allowed at LAX, you cannot. Of course, you can't light up in the airport. Let's be clear. You can't light up in the airport because smoking is illegal, right?
Right, in the airports.
But you have to keep in mind where you're traveling to. And so if you're traveling to a place that it is illegal, just because you were allowed in LAX with that doesn't necessarily mean you can transport it. You have to think about that that type of
That's trafficking.
stuff. That's trafficking. So it's still a crime to take your marijuana onto the flight to a state that it is illegal. It is a crime. Just because it was allowed in the airport does not necessarily mean that it's not going to be prosecuted,
Right.
or not that you will not get arrested in another state because LAX lets you walk in there because it is legal. What they can't do anything to it in California.
So I think
like
that,
cigarettes.
Right. I think that if I were LAX, I would produce signs within the airport saying that these are the airports that you can fly to.
Well,
right.
yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
They could do that.
You can fly to Vegas. I mean, you can fly to Nevada. You can fly to.
Can you fly to Nevada?
I believe it's legal.
Have they
in Nevada.
legalized it
I believe
yet?
they have.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but whatever states, the 18 states or whatever that have legalized it around the union, put those up in a sign so that people can know. I think that's an easy fix. It's an easy way to say LAX is really trying to warn their customers.
Well, yeah, they're doing their best that they can.
But I'm saying that's like putting signs up, $10,000, $10,000 to create those signs, post them up around the airport, at different terminals or some in the bathroom somewhere, right? I think that's a reasonable ask to do. Since they're allowing it at this point, because again, that would be the weirdest and dumbest crime to fly from LA to Austin. It's not legal here in Texas.
And then people don't think like that.
Right, from Sacramento to Houston, and the dogs, you get randomly searched,
and it's terrible.
And whoop whoop. Here come the folks. You know what I'm saying? Come the sound of the police. Whoop whoop.
I can't.
You know what I mean?
But so it's something to think about. It's something to really chew on, and it tells you, or it goes to show that it's going to actually have to. These things have to change really quickly, because it's going to be too many occurrences of people having to explain, I'm from this particular place. Even when I think about how that affects the job market,
right?
I'm
that's
from this
exactly where
particular place where it was legal where I was. I should not be penalized if I'm moving to this state and I can't pass a drug test.
Oh, yeah.
So it's
or even if I went on vacation to Colorado, it's legal in Colorado. I was
Yeah.
on vacation. I'm out on work
it's
time.
a lot with that.
I didn't post it. I just wanted to, get a little higher. I just wanted to elevate myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then you go back and get a random drug test. And we're at your, you know what I mean? That's interesting. I've always wondered ethically how does that fall?
I don't know. We don't know. Okay, but now let's think about this. Okay, so on the other side of that, New York City airport workers are going to receive. Now we're still talking about airports. Now, New York City airport workers are to receive top minimum wage at $19 an hour. One clap for that. Now, we're going to one clap that because we think that's amazing. Number one, New York is a very expensive place to live. So the fact that they're getting the top of the minimum wage at the airport is amazing.
It is not even the most expensive place to live in the country.
No, it's not the most expensive place to live in the country, but it is expensive to live in New York. So if you have a job working at the airport, you're doing pretty good for a minimum wage job, considering most places don't have minimum wage over $10.
Right, and at minimum wage, I just did the math. At only 40 hours, 40 hours a week, no overtime. It's $39,520 gross, and so that's beyond a living wage. Now, what's amazing about that is, it's New York. $39,000 for a single person isn't going to go super far in New York City, but New York has put in some provisions such as rent control, such as other different municipality provisions that can help people who need it, as have other states and other municipalities across the country. So it's pretty cool, man. If that's the minimum wage, I'm wondering what are the salaries for the experienced and degree folks going to be like? Is it going to go up at the same percentage level? It doesn't necessarily have to. I'm just wondering. But I think it's a phenomenal thing. And it's very ethical, having studied ethics formally on a graduate level. and really done some time and some publishing work in that regard. I am bragging today. I'm very interested in organizations operating ethically, and I think it's a great thing. It's a great thing to do. Because listen, they can afford it. It is what travel has increased. I think I read an article a few weeks ago about how travel has increased since 9/11. I mean, since what is this 2018? Since 2016, the sum of 70% end over end, and so the money's there. People are flying. People are traveling, right? So why not? Why not pay them a little bit more?
I think it makes sense to me.
Because you can tax them more at that point.
You can tax, but New York is also a state that has state tax as well. So hopefully it all works out.
But they don't have sales tax.
But they do not have sales tax.
So it may balance it out.
It all balance. I mean, hopefully it will all balance out. But again, I think it's amazing that the airport workers are getting $19 an hour, and again, probably because it's in New York, a high risk job maybe. But I think it's
for sure.
I think it's definitely good that they're doing that.
I think another good thing that everybody should do, especially those who are listening, you should go to Facebook, and you should, and especially our Facebook Live audience, you should also do a good thing, and that is subscribe to our show on all the major platforms, including iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, YouTube, Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Review our show in iTunes with constructive feedback, and share this Facebook Live post and the entire show with your family and friends. Now, you can also donate to our mission to bring enriched and inspiring content each and every week. You can donate at www.thesphere.tv/donate. Shout out to artists Garrett Walker and Mary Pierce, R.L. Davis. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you guys hit subscribe on the website, www.thesphere.tv /SocietyNow. Hit subscribe on the website to catch the rest of this show. We'll see you soon. But I tell you, it's really important that we keep the conversation going, right?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I thought was interesting is a good read. It talks about the Great Recession. Now, the Great Recession I'm referring to is the one that happened in 2008. The one that happened in 2008, where we had the home loans that, the mortgages that inflated, the bubble that happened, the Lehman Brothers went out of business, the collapse of Lehman Brothers, the Merrill Lynch's, a lot of things occurred, and it really affected the country. Well, what we didn't talk about, which was really affected, which was how does this affect the college students, those persons who had student loans. Because of the Great Recession, we wound up having a student loan problem that turned into a $1.5 trillion crisis. This crisis was only exasperated by the fact that people could not find jobs. A lot of companies were not hiring anymore. A lot of people could not actually build their portfolio because they couldn't buy homes. Because of downturn, a lot of persons that were being hired not necessarily at marketable rates and or lower rated jobs, and so they could not get what we would consider a living wage that would sustain them and be able to pay for their student loans. A lot of students are we looking at forbearances and deferments just to be able to live day to day, because we still have not been able to fix the bubble that occurred, not just in housing, but also in student loan debt crisis. So $1.5 trillion is a lot of money. And this we're talking about since 2008. That's only been 10 years. So we're talking about it went up from $671 billion at the beginning of 2008 to $1.5 trillion as of today. And it's interesting how in our country, we actually are pro-education. We are pro, better yourself. These are the things you need to do. But now we're starting to look at other ways that people can get a good paying job without necessarily accumulating all this debt. Now people are talking about certifications and talking about how they can not necessarily go to big universities, but maybe go to the 2-year institutions first, get certifications in different areas, trades. You can get these from community colleges or even other programs, and still probably make more than some of your cohorts or your counterparts who are actually in the bigger universities who are accumulating a lot of debt. So this conversation is going to be very interesting to follow in the time coming up. Additionally, as we're transitioning in this country, and we're looking at, especially here in the States, we're looking at, this is going into the holiday season, but it's also going into flu season. People are really having a lot of conversation about how to avoid sickness this flu season and what we should be doing. One thing that none of us really hate, none of us really want to be sick, and no one actually wants to be benched for the holidays. So what has been suggested, I saw an article called from myrecipes.com, and it talked about what not to eat during flu season, the best way to avoid getting sick. Some of the things they suggest is avoiding excessive alcohol, not eating processed foods, avoiding items that are high in simple sugar. And that's interesting because I know a lot of mixed beverages have simple sugar as a mix in it. Avoiding or keeping a low intake of frozen foods and pre-made soups. And this is also interesting because most times when you're not feeling well, you will grab a box of noodles or grab a package of soup just to feel better. But they're suggesting that if you're going to be sick during this time period, or if you feel yourself, don't do the pre-made noodles, don't do the frozen foods. And also they say that the reason why they're saying to avoid that is because these foods actually promote inflammation in the body. And your body's unable to fight off infection when it's also trying to heal inflammation. In other words, infection distracts your body from the healing that's necessary. Another thing they also said to avoid is caffeine. Caffeine is said to have too much cortisol in it, which is a stress hormone, and that also inflames the body. Mm-hmm. So it's something that we need to really look at. So we're looking at flu season coming up, Kaylin, and also what happens during flu season. People try to avoid being sick, but these are some of the things they really tell us we don't need to be partaking in. Even though it's like we're getting on holiday season, no more alcohol.
Right. That's rough, right?
That's rough for most people. They're like, they want their holiday drink. They want to mingle with their friends. They want
a little cognac. They want a little.
But nobody wants that flu though.
No, nobody wants that flu.
And the flu is terrible.
What's really interesting, indeed it is. It's the worst thing ever. What's really interesting is this processed food. Before we had children, I think I knew what I don't know if I really knew what processed food really was, right? Because we're really health conscious. But I didn't think of it in terms of, well, if it's prepackaged, it's processed.
Absolutely processed.
And I'm like, that's like everything in the store almost. You know what I'm saying?
Everything in
the grocery store. And so that's scary. Shout out to Froberg Farm. We got to get back out there to Froberg.
Yeah, because like you said, having kids makes you very aware. I was always uber aware of some things, but it takes us another level because I'm like, I really don't want to eat too many boxed things because I really do understand that it's just not healthy.
Yeah, it totally is. And that cortisol thing is really, really big because cortisol, it's seen most in the legs and in the stomach, right?
Yeah.
That's where it forms the most, and so that's where we get the beer bellies and the guts and the cellulite in the legs and the droopy saddlebags and all that kind of deal. So pay attention to all that, man. Make sure that your health is
paramount.
Top-notch.
Right. Okay. So another thing that's going on, and we've had this conversation before, but it's a lot of conversation around what states aren't doing to save new mothers' lives. It's kind of like a circle back. A lot of in the news, it's being reported that U.S. maternal death rate is among the highest in the world. 18 states, though they've been looking at states by, in the country, 18 states have not studied the details to figure out why the maternal rate in the U.S. is so high. We in the past, we did talk about how not only is it very high in the U.S., but it's also higher in African American women.
Right.
I saw recently an interview where a doctor said, unfortunately, we just do not give a lot of attention to the needs of African American women when they come into the hospital for labor and delivery. We really don't hear their pain. We almost like we ignore it. And when I heard that, it made me think about, do they ignore it because they think that we are as Black people are more able to handle pain? Like what? Like why would you not think that my pain is any less real than the person who does not look like me? And so, I mean, again, it's not a situation that's germane to African American women. It's a crisis here in the United States, but the numbers are higher among African American women. And I think there's a lot of things that go into it, but we have to stop blaming mothers for this crisis, and we need to start looking at the healthcare system in general.
Yeah.
And what are we doing to treat women? Are we looking at their health history? Are we looking at, do they have a history of high blood pressure? Do they have a history of disease that they may be predisposed to certain things? What's the studies? Are the OBGYNs that are their caretakers, are they prepared to deal with high risk pregnancies? So we have to really look at that.
You know, I mean, you're absolutely correct. I think gosh, it's so heartbreaking. It's so it's just hard to know that fact actually exists, right? That we are among the tops in the world for the maternal death rate, but we have the number one
Healthcare system.
in terms of skill and access, right? We have the best healthcare system. We don't necessarily have the best healthcare options, right? But
That's
in terms of system, we're number one, and so people come to the States to get treated for things all over the world, and so it's one of those things. It's very hard to hear. And to your question, Kira, why are black women being treated disparately? It may seem like it's disparate treatment in regards to child labor. I don't know, but I hate to make it sound like everything is a race thing, but only thing I can think of is still some lag over from the way black women were treated pre-1960s, right? You see what I'm saying? And even afterwards. But I really don't know the answer. I do know that there is a genetic predisposition in terms of like fibroids and stuff like that, and that don't necessarily mean that. I mean, they can get in the way and become detrimental to your health, but it's very rare. And so I really don't know, but I do know that it's we got to figure something else out.
Absolutely. Now, in other news, there was a article that came out of Suffolk County, New York, and it was discussing the crack pipe vending machines. Did you hear about this?
Wait, I need you to say that one more time. The who?
The crack pipe vending machines.
Wait a minute. So I can go get a crack pipe next to the M&Ms.
Well, not quite. It wasn't. It was more so a vending machine that was near a school that had a vending machine. It was near a school that was advertising or that it had pins in it, writing pins in it, and so it was $2. And so someone actually put their money in because they needed a pin for school, and what came out was a little
a crack pipe,
a little plastic crack pipe, right? And makeshift crack pipe kits that pretty much you put it together. Now, this was not something that was approved by the city or the county. It was actually installed without permission, and a lot of people were very concerned. People that found out about it, of course, they destroyed it when they found people from the surrounding community tore it down.
Came at that thing with a bat so quick.
Yeah, but you think of hear about everything, but it's really disturbing when you think about somebody would actually go to the lengths to put a vending machine with crack pipes in it. Like, why would you do that? Because the next step is, where's the crack?
Who?
Like, I mean, you have the crack pipes in there, but I'm like, so what? So now what?
It's not funny, but
it's not funny. But I'm like, what is it? One of those things that do you watch the people getting it out and then you go meet them on the corner and they be like, okay, I saw you got the pipe out. I want to introduce you in this. Like, how does that happen?
Listen, this is a disgusting story. It's a disgusting story and a wonderful story at the same time. It's disgusting because I can't believe somebody would be so trifling, and that's the best word for me to use. I don't know another word. So trifling, irresponsible, degradorial, right?
Oh, oh wow, degradorial, Lord Jesus.
To put a crack pipe near a vending machine near a school, and they knew what they were doing because they lied in the doggone description of it. You know what I'm saying?
No,
like
that was definitely intentional.
It was intentional, right? It was intentional, but it's a beautiful story because, for one thing, because if you go read the story, the community tore the thing up. They broke it, they smashed it, they put it in pieces because we don't want that crap around our kids.
And we don't want our crack, that crap or that crack around our kids. and the late great Whitney Houston said crack is whack. So we're not gonna go crack is whack.
When she had me laughing and smiling so hard when she said that.
Crack is whack and also destroys your teeth. But we're not gonna talk about destruction of teeth. We're talking about building up your oral hygiene. So this portion of our show is sponsored by Elite Dental Wellness. At Elite Dental Wellness, our vision is to create a welcoming practice that will offer exceptional dental care and a lifetime of dental wellness. We're committed to the finest possible oral care and the overall health and well-being of our patients. Elite Dental Wellness is built upon a foundation of integrity, expertise, and service. Through our commitment to modern dentistry, continuing education, and a friendly atmosphere, we strive to make our patients feel that they are part of our family. Dentistry can be scary, daunting, and uncomfortable. Dr. Batiste and her team work tirelessly to ensure your comfort. Make your appointment today with Dr. Ashandra Batiste at Elite Dental Wellness by calling 713-789-8680. Again, the number is 713-789-8680. Elite Dental Wellness. No crack pipes over here.
No, man. Get on about your business, man. Like I will catch a charge if I see somebody putting that in around the neighborhood by the house. Like I'm
you
serious.
Should.
Like I'm serious.
No, I don't want you to catch. I don't want you to catch a charge because that you are valuable to us, black man.
I appreciate you.
You are valuable, and we love you. I love you. Okay, I love you, and I don't want you catching no charge for that. Let somebody else do it. Okay.
Put a black mask.
We'll make sure we
That's crazy, though.
Let people know.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this has been an interesting week. The past few years, actually, because this actual conversation started about 2012, 13, the Bill Cosby stuff. The Bill Cosby case has been going on since I was at my last person that I worked with.
Your last employer.
Yeah. Whatever. Them people. Last time I worked at Real 95, right? And this week was his sentencing because last week he was found guilty, right? Or 2 weeks ago. So this week he was sentenced on Tuesday to 3 to 10 years in state prison after being found guilty of sexual assault. Now, I don't want to talk too much about my feelings on this guilty verdict. I'm more concerned about the divide that's happening in the conversation. I think, yes, we do need to punish people for their acts, no matter how, we feel about the person. I do have a problem with, and you said this before, the equity. Is it equitable, or is the law being applied equitably amongst the other people who have also been accused of such things that have ranged and spanned as far back as his as well? I have issue with that. And not necessarily that Dr. Cosby, because he is still a doctor, not necessarily that Dr. Cosby should not be punished. I just think that other people should also be punished as well, and we cannot punish him for the sins of everybody else. I think everybody needs to be included in the conversation. And the Dr. Cosby thing has created such a divide even amongst persons of color, because some people are like, I cannot believe that you're defending a molester or rapist, and everybody else like, it's not the defense of him, it's more so what's going on in the conversation and why does it seem like he's the only one actually being punished for it. So it's definitely interesting to see how people get into this dialogue, and especially you can tell those persons who have had experiences that they feel like this is just wrong, outright wrong. Well, in Pennsylvania, they said that he actually is now in prison. He'll be staying in a single occupant cell, which will be 7 feet by 13 feet tall, and 10 feet tall. He'll have access to a game room, an exercise room, and will be able to purchase his own television, radio, and tablet so that he'll be able to receive emails. These are possessions that inmates are allowed to have. This is not outside of the norm, so he's not getting preferential treatment. The only issue they're having is trying to figure out how to make sure that he stays safe, because he is considered a high-profile person, and right now they're saying he probably will be transferred to general population, but how does that work considering he is legally blind and he does walk with a cane? So, and they've had these type of persons, or the persons with that type of disability before in prison, but that level of fame is not heard of with megastar. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with it, because they're trying not to give him preferential treatment, but when you're saying he has to serve in a maximum security prison, and you might put them in general pop, I think that you have to have some regard for what can potentially happen to this man, considering everywhere he goes, he has somebody walking him.
Yeah, because it becomes a safety issue, not just for him, but for the entire population, general pop, right?
Yeah.
Because fights getting breaking out, you know what I'm saying? People trying to stick up for this old man, people trying to stick up the old man, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just never know what's going to happen in gen pop. And so I tell you, it is a management and a personnel, conundrum that they have to deal with that up there in Pennsylvania. And I really pray, I'm going to take a bit of some latitude here. I despise the comments that Amber Rose said, and I pray that he makes it out of this.
Yeah.
Right. You want everybody to do whatever time they have to do, come out of it a better person. Just because he's 80 plus years old, doesn't mean that he can't learn and come out on the other side.
We don't wish death on anyone.
Yeah, we don't wish death on anyone. That's what Amber Rose said. And so I think that was classless and tasteless. I get it. I get the pain behind it, but that's extreme. But I do think that they have to figure this thing out, because it really can be, they being the Pennsylvania State of Corrections, Bureau of Prisons, whatever their department is called. It really can be a safety issue for everybody involved. And they got iPads and cell phones in prison.
Wait, they didn't say cell phones.
Well, not cell phones. But iPads and all that kind of deal in prison. That's interesting.
Well, I'm not surprised that they have them. I'm actually more surprised at the fact that maybe more states do not have them.
Yeah, that's really
considering that payphones are so obsolete right now, and we know it's grave danger to have people on payphones waiting for that line. That's why fights break out.
Right.
I think that it is smart to let them have these iPads at the work. I'm sure they have all types of firewalls, but I think it's good for them to communicate. It actually lessens the ability for they don't have to worry about people trafficking things in through the mail.
I was about to say it's easy to monitor text.
Yeah. So I think it actually is quite smart. Now, with that being smart and thinking about ways to maximize your potential and your viewing potential, this portion of our show is sponsored by The Sphere. Are you starting your business and looking for a place to advertise? Do you have a need to reach out to thousands of people across the world to build your brand or sell your product? If so, get your product placement and advertising needs handled right here at The Sphere. We offer a wide variety of content delivery platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher. Plus, we have a vast demographic reach within the United States, as well as modern countries across the globe. Our rich content and inspiring dialogue, coupled with your strategic ad, is surely to hit the mark every time. Call us today at area code 832-772-7789 or send an email over to advertise@thesphere.tv. Again, the number is 832-772-7789 or email us at advertise@thesphere.tv. Hey.
We can help you out.
We can, if you let us.
If you let us.
So Dr. Cosby, we're hoping that the part of criminal law is not necessarily just to punish, but to deter and to rehabilitate. And even though he's in his 80s, it doesn't mean he cannot be rehabilitated, whether he serves the whole time or not. I think that everyone, people make mistakes. I'm not gonna say that there's amount of time for mistakes, but things happen, right? So we'll see. Okay, now the Facebook breach. You mentioned this to me today. I didn't even know about this, but we should have known something was amiss when people's Facebook started shutting down, or they forced shutdowns on Facebook.
It happened to me this morning.
So what happened?
So what happened was I'm at the table preparing for the show today, and I go to my Facebook, just to get on Facebook, and it just automatically logs me out. Now, I don't know anyone that that's born in 1975 and on to date, that uses their Facebook on their computer. You don't use it at work, you keep it on your phone. And when you keep it on your phone, all you do is hit the app and it opens up. It asked me for my password. I didn't know what my password was. I don't remember the last time I put in my password. And I said, wait, how did I get logged out? I don't understand. And then my ticker, my news ticker on my iPhone, shout out to all the iPhone users.
Come on, Team iPhone.
All you Android folks, we're praying for you. We yet praying for you.
Yes, holding on.
But New York Times had an article that talked about a Facebook data breach, and so according to the New York Times article, Facebook was aware of a potential hacking of about potentially 50 million users of its users, and evidently I was identified as maybe one of those. And the reason why I could have been identified, well, I figured that out, is because the article further states that about 90 million people woke up, logged out of their Facebook Friday morning today. And I was one of those persons because of this. And so they knew about the hacking for some time, for about a week, almost a week. But they wanted to make sure that once they logged it out, they got rid of the virus or whatever hacking that it was. And if there's any pertinent data or information attached to your Facebook, first of all, get rid of it. Secondly, let Facebook know, and they'll go through steps to help you recover what may have been lost or whatnot. So it's an interesting thing.
This is when you're a highfalutin person. You highfalutin because only we live in a huge country, but only someone as
don't do that. Don't do that. Stop that. Stop.
No, so someone as advanced as yourself, oh my gosh, on the major mega platforms that you have would be targeted by any potential hacks. I don't know.
Knock it off.
I'm just saying.
But it's interesting. Facebook has had an interesting road these past couple of years with their data security, man.
I honestly think that part of this data security issue with Facebook is because they generally, Facebook, as I think they do allow people their freedom on the internet, but they actually do crack down on what they believe. And I think that when it came to some of the breaches recently that happened, they made it a point to pretty much, I don't know how I want to say this. They weren't for it. They pretty much made it a point like, well, technically, yes, it's our fault because we should do X, Y, and Z, but it's not our fault because we didn't actually know this was happening. So I don't know. I don't.
And they're one of the largest tech conglomerates in the world, right? So in terms of social media conglomerate, they're the largest social media conglomerate. The publicly traded on the internet, right? You know what I'm saying? Whether the stock is doing good or bad, it's the stock market, right? So it goes up and down, up and down. But they got a lot of people gunning for them. And who's to say that this wasn't somebody,
I was going to say,
some sort of corporate espionage or something like that. Who knows?
Corporate espionage, all type. I mean, it could be all type of things.
Yeah.
I mean, considering what type of, because when you think about tech companies and we think about, because we know there was some talk about the Russia thing as well through Facebook about how, they were kind of seeping into people's timelines and things like targeting. So it's just interesting to see. But I don't think I was amongst the breached persons. I wasn't signed out because I wasn't that popular. Only the 90 million people.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Jokes upon jokes.
Jokes on jokes on jokes. But yeah, so that's that. Now, this is something serious, and I really want to talk about this before we leave for this evening. According to teachers, they are not getting the money that they need. Now, we know this is to be true, that teachers don't get paid what they should get paid.
Talk
right?
to artist Denise Walker. Talk to Yarborough Laws.
They talked to us. Heck, we was on the bottom of the barrel at one point, too. I mean, listen, and we weren't even full-time teachers, and we felt that. I mean, but they said, even when you factor in benefits, it's still not enough. They are 11.1% undercompensated, and that's
11%.
They get paid less for similar skills and take on more and more stress than most people who are working in America. So this is what this article says. Time had 3 different covers. One cover says, my child and I share a bed in a small apartment. I spend $1,000 on supplies, and I've been laid off 3 times due to budget cuts. Another person said, I have 20 years of experience, but I can't afford to fix my car, see a doctor for headaches, or save for my child's future. I'm a teacher in America.
That's disgusting. That's deplorable, and it's abhorrent. I loathe the very fabric that this article is written on. It pisses me off.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's serious.
No, it is serious.
Because and it hits home for me because I was raised by educators. We are educators, right?
Yeah.
Even on the collegiate level, it's the same way. I remember seeing an article a couple of years back where college professors, it's the professor rate is at like a 5% growth rate. So to be able to get in is something crazy. Is something
That's the tenure.
Because of the tenure is something difficult. But you have folks with PhDs and masters, 3-4 degrees, masters and PhDs on food stamps. And it's not because they're part of the indigent population or they're lazy. It's just they just can't find any work, right? And it's and they're underemployed. And it's the same thing for our public school teachers, public and private school teachers. It's ridiculous. And then shout out to D.L. Hughley in his new stand-up Contrarian when he was talking about we don't pay teachers enough to do the job they do. Now you want to put guns in their hand? You want them to be security personnel as well as teach and be with your kids 8 hours a day? Man,
that's a stressor.
Man, please.
They responsible. Like you want them to be responsible for their life, but you realize you're putting them in a position that's a high stress position. Because you're like, now you want me to say be peaceful in order to diffuse the situation with a gun.
And I got to deal with Sally Bob and Daquan, like in Pedro, right? And Ming Ying. You know what I mean? Like I get to deal with all of those. And it's frustrating. It's because when you go to I've read that when you go to other countries, especially like in the Middle East and even in Africa, the teachers are regarded. They're highly revered and highly respected and highly regarded. And in some cultures, teachers live with the families that they teach with free everything because you're instructing and preparing the next generation. So it's untenable, and I'm gonna put people on blast. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. There was an article released in the Houston Chronicle a few months back talking about the top paid principals in the Houston area, of which some of them made $160,000, $140,000, $118,000. But you got teachers, right, that are making $44,000 and $42,000 with mandatory deductions that they don't have an option for, right? And so one side of the coin is saying that they chose this position, and then they chose this profession. But everybody chooses their profession to some degree, and so to me that's null and void because you got to work in this country. But again, there's no equity. There's no equity in this regard, and it's frustrating. I'm sorry, I just hogged the conversation. Well, it's frustrating.
Well, this other cover that really, it just hurts me because the lady says, I have a master's degree, 16 years of experience, work 2 extra jobs, and donate blood plasma to pay the bills. And we don't think about when we see, like, we live in a beautiful city and we see all this new construction coming up, and I say all the time, who's paying for this? Who can live in these places?
$2,700
because the people that can actually afford this, most people can't afford to live in the city.
Right.
We live in a city that if you live in the city, you got bank.
So
you live in a place that.
And you expand
it's questionable,
right? And you expand that to cities that are more expensive than Houston.
And Houston is not expensive.
to the Chicago's, right, and the DMVs, and the New Yorks and Frisco's and Seattle's, etc. Mm-hmm. And it's even worse. At least out here in Texas, I know a lot of teachers that are homeowners because there are a lot of different, loan programs, things of that nature. But even those after the bubble, those are few and far between now. After the housing collapse, rather not the bubble, but the housing collapse. So it's a terrible thing, man. That our educators, the people who are our second parents to our children, like when we send our kids off to school, the teachers are going to be the ones to see them just as much, if not more, some days. That's just the reality in America than parents do. It was like that with us. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's really unfortunate. I hope that we get to a place in our country where we pay teachers just as much as we pay other professions, like the specialization to become an attorney or a doctor. I think that especially these, because like you said, these teachers have a very, considering they have a very high risk job, and lots of them are dealing with multiple students daily.
Multiple personalities, all of that, different experiences they bring into the classroom. There was one thing I remember studying this in graduate school in D.C. I forget the name of the superintendent, but they got it passed to where they could pay teachers 6 figures in the D.C. area, right? And they were trying to increase retention, and of course the applications went through the roof. They were out of this stratosphere, right? But they made it a lot more difficult to get the job because of the salaries and to get certified. But it really increased retention. It really it motivated folks. Folks making 6 figures that have topped out at 60 grand in their career, and they've been working 20 and 30 years. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think that's an amazing thing. One flip side of that was because of the teacher contracts and because of overpopulation and the unions, they're really big on teacher unions out in the East. They in a lot of major hubs. A lot of teachers, when they went on strike, they were just sitting in these pretty much cafeterias or these back rooms, earning 6 figures, going to sleep. So there's two sides to every argument, right? To every position, but at the end of the day, our teachers, our instructors, our academicians, they need to be paid fairly.
Absolutely.
Because they teach the doctor. They plant the seed for the physician. You're an attorney. They plant the seed for people in your position to be able to go to school and earn these big dollars. They plant the seed for these folks to become geologists and work on oil wells and engineers. You see what I'm saying? They cultivate that skill at a young age to plant that seed, and they need to be rewarded for doing so. I'm serious, man. It's terrible.
I agree with you. I don't think, again, I don't necessarily know what the fix is for this, but I hope that more money for sure. But whatever the tape is that prevents the money from flowing the way it should, because it's not. I really don't believe that we don't have, or most states don't have the money. I think that we just put it in the wrong things. I think if we're talking about investing in infrastructure, teachers are infrastructure.
So is this an argument for school choice, privatizing school?
I don't think so, but I think
because right now the government's saying we ain't got no money.
I don't think it's an argument for school choice.
I like being playing, angel advocate.
I don't know.
That'd be a great conversation to have.
Yeah, I don't think that's an argument for school choice, but I do think it's an argument for give these people some money.
How about that?
That's the only.
Cash me outside.
Cash me outside.
You understand me?
How about that?
How about that?
Anyways,
real fast.
Thank you all for joining us for this edition of Society Now. My name is Kira Laws. You can follow me on Instagram at the Modern Day Cine. That's Modern Day Cine with an I, not a Y.
And I'm Kaylin Laws. You can follow me on all social media outlets at Senior Wapo 713. That's SENORGUAPO 713. And I'll see you then.
See you next week.
Later.